People are still dropping in, but I think we start. Good morning, everybody. My name is Jasper Thorson. I'm Managing Director of Export Music Sweden. And today I'm in the office, actually. It's fantastic. We're owned by IFPI, Sami and STIM. And Export Music Sweden is also a part of Nomex. And that's why we're having some Nordic friends here on the call. And I'm really happy for that. Welcome. Welcome to everyone. We just started looking at the African region and the many exciting markets there. As you know, we do a lot in Asia, in Americas, and of course in Europe. But for some time, we have been talking about these territories, and what could be better than a crash course from IFPI's regional manager, Angela Ndambuki. Straight from Nairobi. And for questions, write them in the chat, and hopefully we'll have time for them afterwards. So, Angela from Nairobi, take it away. We're so happy to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jasper, and welcome to Nairobi now that we are all virtually connected. It's a pleasure to be here, and good morning, all Nordics. Well, just take us through briefly an overview of the Sub-Saharan African market and just what we've been able to collate so far. Go straight right into it. As IFPI also, we actually set up the regional office in July this year. So it's a pretty fresh and new office, very excited to be setting this up in Africa. We have, of course, we are supposed to be overseeing the implementation of the IFPI's policy agenda for the recorded music business across the 46 countries in the region. Though, however, because we're a new office, we have prioritized this year's countries to ensure that we're able to manage now moving forward and capture all the 46. So we have Nigeria, Kenya, and Ghana, Uganda, Tanzania, and Botswana as the priority countries. Our office is set in Nairobi, Kenya, and we have also prioritized key issues in the region, which is policy and advocacy, establishing national groups, supporting the MLC operations, which are also known as the collective management organizations, content protection and enforcement, and insights and analysis. So I'll just go through briefly the overview of our priority areas so you can be able to understand what we're focusing on for the region. As I said, yes, we were set up in July, and why now? Why Sub-Saharan Africa? It's basically because the African music scene is increasingly becoming more vibrant, as you've seen, and we have all these challenges with the music coming from Africa, very interesting music, especially from Nigeria, South Africa, which you'll be seeing more of the artists a bit later on. So more of these artists are actually getting signed by even the major labels, and more investments is, we're seeing more investment in Africa. And of course, with the digital environment, it's more accessible, we're able to reach more people. So we want to be able, as IFPI, to guide this process and to ensure that we have the best practice, the best policies to be able to to build on the recording industry. So I discussed about our priority countries. Of course, they are based on the GDP, the population, the music industry, income, copyright collection, just to be able to build on those, and those can actually maybe in the future play as focal points to be able to support other industries moving forward. Other markets of interest we have, Angola. We're looking at Angola, Mozambique, Rwanda, Cote d'Ivoire, Ethiopia. We know that Ethiopia has quite 100 million people, very significant to look at. Senegal, Zambia, Mauritius, Malawi. So very interesting countries moving forward. Even Namibia, that we'll be looking at in the next coming year or two after we have already set our basis in the region. So our priority areas, one, the legislative and legal framework. We have policy and advocacy, and this we're talking about mainly the ratification of the WPPT. As you know, this is one of the internet treaties, and now that everything is going online, it's very critical for us to ensure that the SSA countries have ratified, domesticated the WPPT to ensure that the rights holders get the most out of it. So we are working very closely with the governments. We have, of course, already engaged the governments, various governments in SSA to ensure that this is ongoing and there's some good progress with that. Policy interventions for intellectual property rights and especially producer rights, pushing for those in various countries. We have the Africa Continental Free Trade Area that is coming up, and the IP protocol, which is what we're looking at to ensure also the exclusive rights, for example, for the producers, and all the critical aspects of it will be able to take care of. We are, of course, partnering with various agencies, to ensure that, and we are part of the discussions, ongoing discussions with various trade, associations or trade bilateral agreements. For example, the US-Kenya FTA IP chapter. We are part of, actually, we are the lead for the IP negotiations for this as IFPI. We also want to, as policies, to ensure that the MLCs and the collective management have regulations, transparency, accountability, and good governance, of course, value gap issues, enforcement of copyright, especially on this online space and digital space. When it comes to our priority area 2 of supporting national groups, we all know that associations are very critical, and ensuring that in the African SSA we have these national groups that are affiliated to IFPI and who will be handling policy issues and assisting us be able to have the local support. And of course, there will be also administering ISRC in their local respective regions. And this assists in terms of having that global look and ensuring that this local repertoire is actually available at the global space. For these national groups, we are working very closely. We have made tremendous movement in the short period between Kenya and Nigeria, and we're already setting those up and registering the association. Already identified, the companies that are interested to move forward with this. So that's pretty interesting. Priority area 3, collective management. A lot has been done in the last, 5-6 months. And we have done market studies in our priority countries just to see what are we looking at, what is the potential of the region, and so much information has come up and so much potential as well. So we're really looking forward to giving that support on a one-on-one basis moving forward, working very closely with the collective management organizations, which are the MLCs, the music licensing companies. We have been supporting them, the development of and improving their sales reporting systems, ongoing training to ensure that they are aware of what they need to report on, outreaching them and national officers in priority countries to develop the ICT systems for licensing, pushing broadcast licensing, seeking government support for industry content protection activities. All this that we are able to work together with the MLCs to ensure there's a movement there. Priority area 4, which is content protection and enforcement, very interesting. If you look at the numbers that are there, we have done some overviews for Nigeria and Kenya as well in those 4-5 months, working very closely with the government, signing of MOUs. We have signed the MOUs with the regulators to ensure that we're able to support them and capacity build them in terms of addressing online piracy issues. We have, of course, already had some form of training, but we'll continue with this training, both for the government and the private sector, the rights holders, to ensure that they're aware of what they need to look at. We are supporting also with intelligence having specific infringing services and investigations and having disruptive and administrative actions. So this will be pretty interesting to just ensure that at least the right people get remunerated at the end of the day in terms and ensuring that the online piracy is covered. If you look at the numbers, for example, in Kenya we had if you look at last year to this year, July, we had around 72 million visits to these illegal sites, which of course we can be able to see how to ensure that this is legitimized or people are able to access the repertoire in a legit manner to ensure that the rights holders benefit. And lastly, our priority area 5 is insights and analysis. We are so excited about this, actually, just being able to establish an official industry source for Sub-Saharan African music sales and charts. So we want to set up some charts for this region, and this will be, we're giving ourselves a year actually to set this up, because it can be a bit costly and a bit involving, but we have begun slowly seeing the various partners that we can work with to give us the data and to collect the data together with the companies, the MLCs, the IFPI national bodies. We collect data from various stakeholders in the industry, working together with all these stakeholders. So that's that for at least what we are focusing on for Sub-Saharan Africa. And as you know, IFPI usually has global music reports on an annual basis. And for 2019, this just put a snapshot of various pages that you can see. I know maybe for Africa, we haven't had that much information. That's why we've actually set up this office to ensure that we are able to collate from various stakeholders different information that we can be able to feed into the global music report. As you see from, it's just global music market in numbers. It has some great local engagement and investments for artist development and innovation. Interesting, information and data collated over the whole year. If you look at 2019, for example, and just a snapshot, just put a snapshot of the numbers that you can see, Africa was up, and Middle East, of course, this is collated together, was up 15.9% to $101 million, dollars. So pretty interesting numbers. If anyone wants to know the nitty-gritties for whichever region it is, you can be able to go to our website, ifpi.org, and you can be able to access the global music report and get the numbers from various industries around the world. So just coming straight into Africa and what is here, and various genres that you can be able to listen to. You can see that we have niche, genres that cut across various countries in Africa. For example, Afrobeat from Nigeria and Ghana, Benga from Kenya, Bongo Flava, Tanzania, Chimurenga, Zimbabwe. If you go down, you can see in the middle there we have Kwasa Kwasa and Rumba from DRC, plus many other countries, Kwaito, South Africa. In Kenya as well, we have Kapuka and Gangeton. Some interesting, genres that are there. But we also have, genres, the general one that cut across various, countries are available that are, just also internationally, Afro-pops, the dancehall, gospel, hip-hop, rap music, just all across Africa, and become quite a vibrant continent to when it comes to music. What about the population and the cities, especially the cities that we have? We have quite a number of populated cities. Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, you can see 6.5 million. Lagos, 21 million. And we're just, discussing with Jasper earlier, that the cities themselves, let alone the country, the cities are even bigger than some of the countries, especially, in Europe, which are a bit smaller, but it's very interesting. And Kenya, Nairobi, we have 3.5 million, Kinshasa, 13 million, quite some numbers here in Africa, and very interesting at that. So a lot of, people and population to tap into, and very interesting. So what are the listening habits? I would say that this actually varies from country to country, and of course depends on various factors such as age, the location, whether, we have, of course, in Sub-Saharan Africa, the city and the rural. Some of people are also in the rural areas. The gender, the genres, the market penetration of the smartphones, and of course, this is really picking up in Africa. The cost of data bundles sometimes can be a bit high in some of the countries. Exposure to the social media, young people actually very apt to them actually taking up these social media habits. And actually, what we've seen is that, the listening habits are not always personally driven. They can also be, driven by marketing efforts such as, influencers and big brands. We have TikTok, especially with the young ones. It's really picked up, especially here in Kenya. We have Pop Studio, like various big brands coming up and, putting up music. So whatever it is that they're influencing, you're seeing that they're able to pick up on that. For devices, as we say, smartphones are most commonly used to be able to have this, especially from our research that we did, and I'll speak briefly about this just after this, in Nigeria in 2018. We have laptops and radios as well. Well, for the time, basically people listen to music throughout the day, while they're commuting, at work, studying, relaxing, clubbing, basically music is embedded in us. So it's quite interesting when you see that music is actually like part of what it is, even culturally, we are, a music people, if you'd say that way. Other habits, of course, are influenced by local labels that, use also unlicensed online channels to market their music. Generally, the rise in internet access in Sub-Saharan Africa, the changing of the listening habits has arisen. As I said, we had a case study where we had a qualitative study as IFPI in 2018, and this was just specifically for the music market in Nigeria. I just want to give a snapshot just for us to see, what we saw in that particular study, and we identified some music personas. Those the music fanatic, music lover, music enthusiast, and music casualist. Basically here, the projective techniques were used to tap into participants' deeper feelings about the music, more specifically, asked to select the music persona which they most identified with. And you found that some identified themselves as being a fanatic, someone who sees music as one of the most important things in their life. So I guess those are the ones who listen throughout the day to music throughout the day. Most also identified as being a music lover, someone who loves music but also has other hobbies and interests that they feel passionate about, and the remainder fell into the music enthusiasts category, which none, seeing themselves as just none of them actually felt that they were casualists. So you can see in Nigeria, people actually love music, and that's why I guess you can feel and you can see some interesting music coming from there. So just to see a summary of findings also in that particular qualitative study, there was an engagement with music. The engagement with music was actually high among young Nigerians. And of course, this was experienced not just as entertainment, but a way of maintaining good mental well-being and to discover and communicate with the world. Most of them tended to listen to music throughout the day and showed a keen interest in discovering new music, both from Nigerian artists and international ones. And participants expressed a strong sense of pride when Nigerian music and dance received attention on a global stage. And we can see this has been happening, the last couple of years with great music being churned out from Nigeria. The second finding was spending time with loved ones, friends, and family was integral to young Nigerians, and music was a key part of this. And I guess this is actually also spread out in various regions around Sub-Saharan Africa, where listening and communicating with their friends, social media, sending songs to each other was part of socializing. And that's why it's really critical to ensure that these platforms are legalized and people are able to access this music, so we can be able to ensure that it's done all in a legal manner. While young Nigeria showed a keen interest in digital technology, they were restricted by internet infrastructure, and internet was rare at home. Well, that's what was found out in 2018, leaving mobile data as the primary source of connectivity. So you can see that this would be able to influence with the cost of mobile data, and how the telcos are handling those costs is really critical when we look at this, because also with the movement and being able to make available these rights at a particular time and place, we're able to see that we have to have this accessibility for people to actually access music at any given time. Fourth, summary of findings, further music consumption behaviors were dominated by digital devices and formats. And that's why we were talking about ensuring that these countries at least ratify the WPT and ensure that these rights are actually embedded in the core legislation of each of these countries. Smartphones, as I said before, were the most commonly used devices and the main source of internet connectivity. And now I see people are able to move around with their smartphones, and it's become part of our lives, actually. We were just joking the other day, and saying that, if you leave your smartphone these days, it's like you've left, your rib, back home. So you have to go back for it. It's become part and parcel of our lives. So it's really critical that we're able to make, music accessible and easily accessible at that through our smartphones. Digital downloads were the primary means of obtaining and listening to music. But of course, majority of downloading was via the free sites. But some actually did pay to download via licensed online platforms such as MTN and Boomplay. Downloading provided the ability to listen offline, saving money on data, of course, because of streaming, as this can actually add up as costs. So some did spend money on purchasing CDs, but this tended to be, to mean market sourced and pirated content rather than from official outlets. So the movement you can see towards the digital formats will be very critical moving forward. The awareness of streaming platforms was fairly high, but actual use was much lower. But participants actually felt that streaming required a lot of mobile data. So the current infrastructure is meant to be too expensive in terms of data to use regularly. So there are other things that we, discovered, as we went through this the study, which was very interesting. But while direct spend on music was low, young Nigerians allocated significant amount of disposable income to mobile data, which was then spent on music-related activities. I guess that's quite straightforward. So that was really interesting, actually, and that study is also available. If you would like to see it, you can actually go online or reach out later. We can be able to share the same. So with those interesting views that we've captured so far, there are also just to look at some major African artists that we just captured as snapshot of various artists around Africa. We can begin with Burna Boy. Here. And he's from Nigeria, Afrobeat genre, and was actually the best international act winner at the 2019 and 2020 BET Awards. So he was awarded the African Artist of the Year also in the 2020 GMAs. His 2019 album, African Giant, named the most streamed album in Africa. So pretty good music here. As I said before, Nigeria is really picking up and on the global scale. He has won quite some accolades. His 2020 album, Twice as Tall, had 40 million streams by September 25th, and 2019 garnered over 13 million monthly listeners on Spotify. Received over 600 million streams in 2019. So you can see actually some good music there. Wizkid again, also from Nigeria. His fourth studio album, Made in Lagos, was released on October 2020 to international acclaim. Album surpassed 100 million streams across all platforms in under 10 days of its release. So you can see that global movement, in Africa is actually getting to the world. And, as I said, thank God for this technology and digital being able to access and ensure that, African music is actually taken out to the world, and can see the richness in this music and the beauty of it. And it's very interesting when you see a club in London, just playing Nigerian music or Kenyan music or South African music, and people are really, really getting down to it, So in August, he became the first African artist to hit 8 million monthly listeners on Spotify. Very interesting. Other artists, you can see Shoma Josie, does rap in South Africa. Very interesting music there. Yemi Alade, also in Nigeria, Afrobeat. Davido, Stonebwoy from Ghana, Tiwa Savage, very beautiful, singer from Nigeria. Very beautiful music as well. Then we come to East Africa. We have Diamond Platnumz. Very big artist, actually, especially in YouTube, having being the first African to actually hit the 1 billion views on YouTube. Actually, he just released a song in 3 days, a recent song with Koffi Olomide, who's from the Central Africa with the Kwasa, Lingala sort of music. Very interesting music. Already over 5 million views in 3 days. So he's a multi-award winning artist and songwriter. 4.4 million subscriptions on YouTube from November 2020. So you can see quite a following there. And Billboard reported that 80% of those views are from outside Tanzania. with neighboring Kenya, of course, followed by Tanzania, and the US drove the most views, which is very, very interesting for this, just giving that global outlook again. Very beautiful music coming from Tanzania, just East Africa. Others will be Sakodi, you know, from Ghana, Ali Kiba again from Tanzania, Eddie Kenzo from Uganda, Salif Keita, that's been a while, Africa from Mali, Baba Mal from Senegal. You can see others having that authentic, you know, music still being appreciated on the global scale. Coming to Kenya, we have this really, really great popular band, Afro band, Sauti Sol, beautiful, beautiful music. The multi-award-winning Kenyan boy band boasting of 5 studio albums, recently signed an exclusive deal with Universal Music Group. And the group's 5th studio, I would say that we should really go and download this, you know, and access the album with beautiful music, which features big names, you know, like Show Majozi from South Africa, Burna Boy from Nigeria, and India Arie even from the US. So you can see, you know, just integrating, you know, these cultures, integrating this music, it's able to blend and just bring out some very, you know, lovely tunes coming from Sauti Sol here. And according to Boomplay 2020, the group was one of the most streamed artists in Kenya. I would say I'm one of the major fans of Sauti Sol. Coming to our queen, Afro pop, we have Angela Ndambuki from Benin. Her artist album Salient 2019 won her a 4th Grammy Award in the 2020 edition of the awards for Best World Music Album. Angela Ndambuki has been there, you know, for a while, but still, you know, churning out great music. The album peaked at number 6 on Billboard, you know, and has had 3 #1 hits on Billboard 200. In 2007, Time magazine actually named her Africa's premier diva. So she's our Mother Africa here. And lastly, just as an overview of some of these great artists, and there are, of course, very many others, but just an overview of this. You can't finish 2020 without really talking about our dance song, Jerusalem, which has, you know, actually DJ Master KG is a South African singer-songwriter and record producer, and the famous Jerusalem song featuring vocalist Nomsepo. So it has since, you know, its release in November, gone viral, garnered more than 229 million views on YouTube. #1, the song has topped at #1 in Belgium, Netherlands, you know, Romania and Switzerland, and peaks top 10 in other European countries. And they're now signed to Electra one label in France. So I'm sure you've seen, you know, the challenge going around for the Jerusalem dance, and that was really interesting, and various companies actually taking on the challenge around the world. Beautiful, beautiful music from Africa. Other major African artists, of course, I've just labeled there from Tanzania, you know, Nandi, Harmonize, Vanessa Mdee. Kenya, we have various, you know, artists, Calligraph, Jones, Nameless, you know, so name them. They're all here. You can be able to check their music online, and they can give you pretty, you know, interesting overview of the various sounds that can come from Sub-Saharan Africa. From Uganda, we also have Bebe Cool, Mali, Amadou, and Mariam, Senegal, and If. Africa has a really long list, you know, and many more actually also who are quite famous. Mafiki Zolo, that group, Yvonne has been there for quite a while, and beautiful music there. So it's really interesting to just see the various, you know, music types coming from Africa and the appreciation actually on an international scale, global scale. Okay, so excuse me. So now that we've talked about the artists, genres, and we just want to see what live markets, you know, are there in Africa. How can you be able to access, you know, various music, and some of the venues, of course, most of the Sub-Saharan Africa countries have a vibrant live music, varying in scope, nature, and services offered. All major, you know, SSA cities offer live music entertainment, and of Of course, now because of COVID, this has really slowed down, but we are hoping that we can be able to see this picking up. And we also know, of course, the industry is very resilient. And once things are up and running, now that we have seeing some vaccines coming around, we are hoping the next year will be quite vibrant. The structure is not as formalized as in more developed countries, but the existence of formal live music circuits is limited to a few major cities. However, live music is mainly offered at venues, bars, clubs, eventing venues, hotels, nightclubs, and restaurants. And we have a lot of live music there. Major venues, just a snapshot of some of the major venues in key markets. You can see Kampala there. We have Cayenne Lounge, Sheraton Hotel, Lagos, Nigeria, Echo Suites, Accra, Rockstone Office, Dar es Salaam, Slow Leopard, Nairobi, and also Mombasa. We have the beaches there. We have Carnival in Nairobi, Two Rivers, KICC, some good events taking place in some of these cities. In Joburg, Pretoria, based in Joburg, so many places where you can be able to access music and live, especially live performances. When it comes to touring, we do have vibrant touring scenes, and they of course vary from country to country. Formalized tour promoter industries outside one or two major markets is still in the development stage. So a lot of, we can have a lot of, investments towards this to just make this and ensure that these markets are formalized. Sector majorly supported by major brands from markets such as hospitality, electronic media, telcos, liquor, airlines, banking, and retail. So these are actually like corporates that usually, support or sponsor, such tours or events. Cultural associations such as Alliance Française, British Council, Goethe Institute, as well as other associations from Arab, Chinese, Indian, Lusophone communities also participate in live event touring. We also have even, the diplomatic corps that actually come and really support, the music and that cultural exchange in various countries, and which is pretty interesting to look at and to see. In terms of regulatory matters, such as visas, work permits, taxation of concert fees, local authority and event licenses, insurances, police, agency clearance, and other related matters, they need to be formalized as in other markets. And of course, trying to see that that's a smoother process and getting to see where you can be able to collect all this data when you're trying to, to have the touring in various countries as well. When we talk about the media outlets, also again, it varies from country to country and depending on the segment of the market, audience targeted, but we can see radio, television, social media, influencers, billboards, newspapers, some magazines and internet are all popular in the Sub-Saharan Africa markets. We have the public broadcasters are now on the wane, you could say, and in view of the competition, especially from the private sector, really picking up. And now, especially, with the onset of the digital, space and medium, we're seeing new streaming services and social media really coming up, and more accessibility being, and consumption being, consumed this way, music being consumed this way. Bloggers and YouTube media channels, influencers are more popular, in most of the SSA markets. So just as what is happening, there's that movement and that excitement, towards just moving towards the digital space. And of course, with COVID, we have realized, a bigger music consumption online, because now, of course, it's restricted in terms of having these live performances. The main festivals and promoters, many festivals, some of them are genre specific, largely, as we said before, are sponsored events supported by ticket sales. Festival organizers do not have large reserves, so promoters largely they're independent. However, major promoters from developed countries such as Live Nation USA and French-based companies are becoming more and more involved in the concert scene. So as you can see, people are actually coming to Africa and making major concerts throughout the region. Some of the major festivals, I just gave an overview. In Ginger, we have Nyege Nyege, and this year it was actually online. We were also trying to engage there. Lagos, we have Festa, Accra, For Nation, Malawi, Lake of Stars Festival. A famous one is the Zanzibar Sauti za Busara, very interesting, and seeing that Zanzibar is a small island, but rich culture and that music at the festival, really interesting. I would actually, recommend us to, if you have some time, usually around February, you can make your way to Zanzibar for the Sauti za Busara. Nairobi, of course, Africa International Jazz. We also have actually Kilifi at the end of the year, usually in Mombasa or Kilifi Coast region. Cape Town, South Africa, Cape Town Jazz, Opikopi, various around the world, Africa, that you can be able to tap into and join us in terms of having the festivals. So now that we've discussed that, and just finalizing, we really talked about streaming services and how they're really picking up in Africa, and just looking at, what we also discussed, what our findings in the Nigerian market, study, download sites which allow users to purchase individual tracks and albums. Those are the top distribution platforms, as we saw in Nigeria. Subscription, services offering streaming, access to a catalog of full tracks for a monthly or annual fee, and you're slowly seeing an increment of people being able to subscribe to these services. We also have, of course, ad-supported services, enabling a listener to legally listen to larger catalogs of full tracks for free, while music creators receive income. And this, of course, is our, our main aim, and being able to see that, we still have those support systems to ensure at the end of the day, the rights holders are able to earn, revenue from their works. We have one that I really want to talk about is the coloring back tones, which is really, really growing and giving a lot of income and really supporting, there's a lot of consumption on this, the coloring back tones, especially, for example, in Kenya, where we're seeing quite an amount, over, I would say, $30 million equivalent a year coming from the coloring back tones. And this is really, really interesting to see the consumption of this, coloring back tones, that the market is actually yearning for them. So in physical, of course, piracy rife, hence most distributions via digital platforms is picking up. But physical sales, of course, via concerts and virtual, stores. So just to get a snapshot of these services, or these streaming services, we just give, according to the priority countries that we have, there's Boomplay, Spinlet, those are actually running across most of these countries, Mdundo, Mziki. Some of these are local, but are actually going on a larger scale in terms of tapping on the African market. iRocking in Nigeria, MTN, we do have, the international ones also really setting their pace here. Kenya, Nigeria, and Ghana. You have Uganda, Tanzania, Botswana. You can see we all have this Apple Music access. Deezer, YouTube, of course, SoundCloud, TikTok, really picking up there, especially with the younger generation. Streaming services, in other countries still see the same, type of services available in Apple, Deezer, Facebook, the international ones, and some of the local ones as well, that have been able to spread out, at least in the other regions. South Africa, as you can see, has those plus Jukes, Legi, Midtracks. I mean, a lot of also some that are specific to a particular region. So if you look at the label services, you can see that, of course, they're traditionally defined as A&R distribution, and A&R distribution, management, marketing, pressing. All these services, are usually given as part of the label services. And due to the absence for benchmark services, operators, local entrepreneurs navigated, developed their own routes and practices. And in the past 5 years, major labels such as Sony, Universal, Warner, and other independents have ventured into East, Southern, and Western markets. also the Anglo-Franco and Lusophone countries as well. Just a snapshot of some of the news that you've seen recently is with these record companies having that growing interest in Sub-Saharan Africa, especially development of those digital markets, worldwide investments coming in. You can see Sony Music opens the Nigeria office as it expands across Africa. Universal Music Group expands in many opening offices in Morocco and Israel, also open in Nigeria. Now coming into Kenya and other countries as well. Def Jam Africa expands into Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, and Cameroon. You can see those French-speaking. DJ Black Coffee acquires a major stake in Gallo Music Investments. Kenya Afro Pop Star Sauti Sol Inc. exclusive deal with Universal, and we talked about them earlier. Warner invests in Africa-based music distributor Africori, launching global partnership with EDA. And you can see these are just highlights of news items that we just picked. A lot more is happening in Africa, a lot of investments coming in, and we're really looking forward to growing this this industry in the Sub-Saharan part of Africa. And lastly, as we talk about, of course, this year, we can't really, talk about the year ending without talking about the situation of the COVID-19. But as IFPI, as we talked about, we do have these, reports that are on an annual basis. So we are in process to gauge the full impact of COVID-19, and we're collating this information from our various partners, the companies, the MLCs, which are the collecting societies, and of course, other stakeholders as well, other partners as well. And we should be able to have this information ready at least next year to be able to just see what was that impact. Of course, so far, what we've seen with the information that is coming in is that clearly all parts of the sector are affected, and especially as we talked about the restrictions, imposed to combat the pandemic, they've actually affected the daily life and aspects of the music industry. But of course, as we talked about, more of the physical reducing, we still see, of course, an increase in consumption online, and hence why we believe this resilience of the music industry is really critical, and we're looking forward actually to a springboard sort of situation for next year. Well, then the industry is campaigning, of course, for support with the national governments, and other organizations have stepped in to help the creative sector in many regions, and of course, Africa has not been left behind. We've seen other countries actually coming on board with some support from also international partners to ensure that the creative industry has remained or is able to be supported throughout this pandemic as they have been heavily affected. So in conclusion, what I would say basically is that, as you have clearly seen throughout this presentation, the Africa music scene is growing significantly, and the expansion of internet across Africa, coupled with increased use of smartphones, is critical to the growth of the music industry. Further to this is the need to have sound policies, legislations, and laws to enhance, this content protection and enforcement, as we have mentioned earlier, and that is why, as this office, we are focusing on these key issues: the policies, fair remuneration for the rights holders, because this will actually enable a greater investment on the continent, and we'll be able to just churn out more and more, interesting music, interesting vibes for the industry, beautiful music coming out from the SSA region. So all in all, we can say Africa does really have, great potential, and that's why IFPI is now focusing on the realization of this great potential. Thank you. If you have any inquiries, that's my email. You could always reach out to us. We do have our team from Sub-Saharan Africa, especially big thanks to I know online, Ipo Cheda, who's our regional licensing and advocacy lead, and Rob Hoyer, also based in South Africa, a consultant who assists us with all this information and just getting together. And our team, small, but we have our London office that gives us great support in terms of content protection policy-wise, and a great team we have at IFPI. So thank you so much. I hope it's been an interesting overview, if I would say. So
Thank you so much, Angela. I had a lot of questions before, but you answered all of them in the presentation. But we again, thanks for a fantastic overview of this vast territory.